This is a 2019 Ford F750 extended cab service truck with an 11-foot IMT body, Dominator 2, a 10,000-pound IMT crane, and a Boss BA440 hydraulic reciprocating compressor. We just built this unit for stock, and we used to build a lot of 750s for stock back in the day, and we really haven't for the last couple of years. You used to be able to order this truck with a Cummins engine and a Allison transmission. Back in about 2015, Ford made a change to an all-Ford drivetrain, and when that happened, we decided we'd lay low for a little bit and just see how the market played out. We got busy building Kenworths and Fords, mostly Ford 550s. And when we were planning out stock units for our Ford dealer this year, he said, hey, look, you really need to take a look at this 750 again. It's got a great price, it's got a great warranty, and it's been proven in the field for a couple of years. So we decided to take the plunge and see what the 750's got to offer for our customers. So today in this video, we're gonna do an in-depth look at the chassis. We're gonna hit the equipment real quick since we've done in-depth equipment stuff in the past in other videos, and then we're gonna take it for a test drive. So let's dig in. There are two options for engines in the 750. There's a gas engine, the V10, or the Powerstroke 6.7 liter. We're not even going to talk about the V10 gas because none of our customers are going to run gas engines in this truck. The 6.7 liter is a all Ford engine. So Ford used to partner with Navistar back before 2011 on their diesel engines, and that partnership really just didn't go too well for Ford. They launched a secret program called the Scorpion engine, and that ended up being this Powerstroke, what is the Powerstroke engine now. And so this is from the ground up, Ford has designed this engine. You get a couple of horsepower options. Standard is 270 horse, the optional 300 horse, and the 330 horse. Ford's going to give you an oil life monitor as standard equipment on this, and that's going to check things like the engine hours and overall usage of your engine, give you some recommendations for when to change your oil instead of going off of mileage. From the industry people that we've talked to, Ford's trying to push their engines towards a 10,000 mile oil change interval. And in our industry, in our application, that's probably not enough. These trucks idle a lot, and they idle a lot in dusty, dirty environments, so that's maybe not something that Ford engineers have taken into consideration when they developed this. So when that oil engine light pops on and says you should change your oil, you probably should have already changed your oil. People that I've talked to are recommending maybe a 5,000 mile oil change interval, and that's really something that you're going to have to talk to your fleet department about and make those decisions based on your usage and your application. The other thing I wanted to cover was the manual regen on these trucks. As you know, the diesel particulate filter is going to need cleaned out every once in a while. It's usually every 300 to 500 miles, depends on what you're doing. If these trucks are running in the field, so you're going 30 miles an hour or more for 20 minutes or more, that's going to happen automatically, and it's going to take between 9 and 35 minutes. You won't even know really that it's happening. If you don't get the opportunity to drive that much consistently, you're going to need to manually regen your DPF, and there's going to be an indicator light in your instrument panel, and it's going to ask you regen yes or no. So you're going to be able to bypass that. If you continually bypass it, you're going to end up at the Ford dealership. So you might as well just bite the bullet and get it done. The manual regen takes, from what I've heard, about 30 minutes. Your RPMs are going to raise up to 2,000 RPMs, and it's going to just raise the temperature engine and get all that soot in the DPF cleared out. These are built in Avon Lake, Ohio, up near Cleveland. They are currently running about 14 to 16 week lead time, but that can change all the time. There's 3 cab options. So you've got a extended cab like this, a standard cab obviously, and also a 4-door crew cab. You also get 36 choices as far as CA goes, and again, CA stands for cab to axle, which is the measurement from the back of the cab to the center of the rear axle. White's the most popular, but I think they've got about 11 different exterior colors you can choose from. This truck is built with 12,000 pound front axles and 21,000 pound rear axles. So it's built like a 33,000 GVW truck. However, when we order this, we order it derated from the factory. So Ford puts a designation on this for 25,999 pounds. Reason we do that is anything that's 26,000 pounds or over requires a CDL, a commercial driver's license, to drive. So with this truck being derated to 25,999, you don't need a CDL to drive it. Ford gives you three options for fuel tanks: a 50-gallon, a 55-gallon, and a 65-gallon option. This is a 65-gallon tank. We don't have enough room on this application to run multiple fuel tanks, but that is an option from Ford. You've got your DEF there up in the front. And Ford Engineering, if you're watching, and I doubt you are, but if you perhaps are, in our service truck world, we hate to even waste an inch. So next time you redesign this, we could use just a little bit more fuel tank. You can obviously get steel wheels on this, and that'll save you a couple of bucks, but we opted for the Alcoa aluminum wheels, which are going to look nicer, longer. This comes with locking diff, which we think is an absolute requirement in a field service application. And then you can either get spring suspension like we've got here, or you can also get air. So on the equipment, we've got a IMT Dominator 2 body, and it's 11 foot long. Typically we run 14-foot bodies on like our Kenworths, but since this truck is derated to 26,000 pounds, we don't have a ton of weight to work with. We've got about 6,000 pounds of payload when it's all said and done. So we shorten the body up to 11 feet, but we do give you the 60-inch high tall compartments, so you got plenty of storage all the way around. This comes with an IMT 10,000 pound crane that reaches 25 feet with the boom tip lights and the Boss BA440 hydraulic reciprocating compressor that's going to give you 40 CFM of air. We opted for the vertical exhaust on this truck, and we do that on almost all of our applications just to keep the exhaust up and out of the work area, especially when you're working in a dirty, dusty environment. These trucks have standard 750 cold cranking amp batteries. That's 2 of them. You've also got an option for 900 cold cranking amp batteries or triple 900 cold cranking amp batteries. And the options for alternators are standard 200 amps or the upgrade to 357 amps if you needed a lot of power out on your job site. Onto the front of the truck, we've got a couple of options here: the chrome front and the chrome front bumper. We also selected the daytime running lights and the front tow hooks, which are pretty much standard in our application. This also comes with the engine block heater. Going through the engine block heater, a lot of guys like to plug that in overnight, but you really only need about 3 hours to get the engine to optimal temperature. Ford gives you 2 options for brakes. You can get the hydraulic brakes, but we always opt for the air brakes. We've had customers in the past try to save a couple of bucks and go with the hydraulic brakes, but in the end of the day, the operators weren't happy and you're carrying a lot of weight. You got to make sure you can stop. We've built plenty of 550 extended cabs and even some Freightliner M2 extended cabs for a field service truck. And the technicians that have that just would never give that up. Having the extra space that's warm, dry, and secure is very valuable in a field service application. We're sitting in the back of the F750 extended cab here, and you can see that this really isn't made for passengers. And quite frankly, if you buy a 750 extended cab service truck, you're not doing it so you can take your kids to soccer practice. You're going to fill this extra space with testing equipment that you want to make sure stays warm, dry, and secure, extra clothes, and whatever else you need in the field. So it'd be really nice if Ford gave you the option to remove this seat, but it's nothing that a torch won't fix. One thing you don't get is a fancy key. I mean, on the 550s, you get the flip-out key, and on the F150s, the new ones, you can get this fancy keyless key. But on the 750, you just kind of get the old boring keys, which one day Ford will give you the fancy key. So you get 4 upfitter switches here, a 25 amp, 25 amp, 10 amp, and a 15 amp. So you see we've got the first one for the PTO and then the last one for the strobe. So you've got a 25 amp and a 10 amp auxiliary switch still available. This option for a 110 outlet is really, really helpful when you're out in the field for days at a time to be able to charge your laptop or whatever else comes up. The air brake control is located in a pretty convenient location right here, and the gauge for your air pressure in your brakes. This is the button for the locking differential. So as it says, you hold for 2 seconds and you get an indication on your dash here that your differential is locked. You'll notice here that Ford gives you not one but 2 places for your coins, and that's not just because they know you're the kind of guy that wants to make exact change. If you had dual fuel tanks, this is where the switch would be. Since we're not running dual fuel tanks, they give you an extra spot for your coins. A couple things on the transmission. The only transmission option you get is the Ford Torque Shift automatic 6-speed transmission. Going forwards, they're going to give you a 10-speed transmission, which they say is better for fuel economy. This is the 6-speed, it's on the column. It does give you the ability to shift your gears manually with this plus minus button here and a tow haul option. One thing when I was going through the specs of this is Ford gives you something that's called adaptive learning for the torque shift. What that's supposed to do, and I don't have any ability to know how well this works, is the transmission learns how you drive. And so it may shift a little hard in the beginning, but after it learns how you drive, it should smooth itself out. And one thing to know about that is if you disconnect the batteries, your transmission may forget how you drive and you'll have to reteach it. Are you ready to go? You finally got your equipment working here. All right.
More or less.
Yeah, okay. All right. Let's take this thing for a drive. And you can hear that rattle there that kicks out at about 1,000 RPMs. That's the PTO rattle. That's not a Ford 750 thing. There you go. We put a 270 PTO on this truck. We had a little extra room. It's got the same transmission as the 550 does, but with the extra room, we were able to upgrade the PTO from the 249 to the 270. That allows us to put a tandem pump on this truck instead of just the single pump and the selector valve. With a tandem pump, you're able to run 2 functions simultaneously. So you can run your compressor and your crane at the same time. Overall, this truck drives really well. As far as visibility goes on this truck, the visibility is really good. You've got plenty of visibility here. Especially with the extended cab windows, you've got plenty of room to check your blind spots. The mirrors are nice and big and they're pointed in a good angle so you can see the back corners of your body. This truck has 330 horse, similar to what we would spec in the PX9 engine on a Kenworth. The difference is that if you look at the specs, this gives you 750 pound-feet of torque versus a Cummins at the same horsepower is going to give you 1,000 pound-feet of torque. So you do feel that a little bit when you're taking grades, that it just doesn't have quite as much power, quite as much torque as a Kenworth or anything that's got a Cummins engine in it, but it's pretty good. As far as turning radius goes, this truck, especially with the shorter wheelbase, has a similar turning radius, feels like, to what a 550 gets you. So if you're working in an area that's got a lot of hills, a lot of mountains, a lot of switchback turns, an 11-foot body is going to be more maneuverable in a situation like that. The truck drives similar to what my F150 does. It's rougher. There's no doubt about that. The air ride suspension may help if you opt for that. And an air ride seat is available in the standard cab and the crew cab. The air ride seat is not an option in the extended cab, and I'm assuming that's because they think that people are going to be coming in and out of the driver's side and you're not going to be able to flip the seat up. Our exhaust filter is 70% full, which means we're getting pretty close to either needing to drive this truck at more than 30 miles an hour for 20 minutes for the auto regen to work, or for us to do a manual regen, which Ford calls I believe the OCR, the operator commanded regeneration, which sounds really intense. We're coming up to a hill here, and we're going to turn our exhaust brake on to see how that works. You can see the indicator light for the exhaust brake, and you can feel it, there you can feel it really holding you back, which is a super nice option if you are in a very hilly area. Will really save your brakes. A couple of options while we're driving here I can point out is the power mirrors, the power windows, and power locks. You don't get too many options in interior here. You can choose cloth seats, I think is probably one of your only options. Ford also gives you an option for air conditioning delete. I don't know what fleet manager hates their techs enough to choose air conditioning delete, but if you're familiar with the 550 interior, that's similar to what you're getting in the 750. It's an upgrade, I would say, from the Freightliner interior. I think it looks a little bit better. It's a little bit more put together, but it's nowhere near what you would get with a Kenworth or a Peterbilt. I think the steering wheel is a little bit bigger, maybe to accommodate the instrument clusters so that you could see all your gauges without the steering wheel being in the way at all. This truck comes with sync, so you're going to get the ability to hook your phone up. There's a USB port here and an auxiliary port and a microphone up here at the top so that you can use the hands-free calling, which is super important for road safety. One comment I got was the headroom. It is a couple inches shorter than a Kenworth would be, depending on where you put your air ride seat. It's comfortable for me, but I imagine if you're 6'6", this truck may feel a little cramped. One thing we haven't talked about on any of our videos to date is the business rationale behind a purchase like this. We build work trucks, not show trucks, so by definition, these trucks need to go out and be productive in the field. This F750, if you compare it spec for spec with a Freightliner, is going to be about $3,500 less, and a comparable, it's hard to do a comparison with the Kenworth because of a different engine and transmission, but you could save maybe $11,000 or $12,000 versus a Kenworth. Now, with the Ford, you're getting a 5-year, 250,000 mile warranty on this truck, which is just outstanding. And since it's all Ford product, you don't get into this situation, which can happen from time to time, where the chassis guy blames it on the engine or the engine blames it on the transmission. It's all Ford. So I think there's a pretty good business case to be made here why the Ford 750 should at least be in the running when you're considering field service trucks. So that's it on the F750. Thank you for watching. And more importantly, thank you to the field service techs out there doing what you do. You know, you could be working in a shop. You could be working under the comfort of a roof, just a couple of steps away from a bathroom and a vending machine, but you lunatics are out there doing what you do, fighting Mother Nature 12 months a year, keeping the infrastructure projects in this country rolling along, and we appreciate that. So if you have any questions on the F750 or any service truck, you can find us on Instagram at QT Equipment, Facebook QT Equipment, or our website QTEquipment.com. Work dirty, be happy, until next time.